The moment Eleanor Thompson heard her daughter's hushed laughter echoing from the hospital corridor, she knew her world had cracked open like a fragile eggshell. Lying there in the sterile bed, tubes snaking across her bruised body, she had just been told she might not survive the week, but it wasn't the diagnosis that sent ice through her veins. It was the gleeful whisper that followed. Finally, the old bat's empire is ours. Those words, spoken by her own flesh and blood, ignited a fire in Eleanor that no injury could extinguish. She wasn't dying today, not without a fight. Eleanor Thompson had always been a fighter. Born in a small Iowa town during the tail end of the Great Depression, she learned early that life didn't hand out favors that demanded you seize them. At 18, she married Harold, a kind-hearted mechanic with dreams bigger than their rusty pickup truck. They moved to Chicago, where Harold fixed cars and Eleanor baked pies in their tiny kitchen to sell at local markets. When Harold died suddenly of a heart attack at 45, leaving her widowed at 40 with a 10-year-old daughter, Lisa, Eleanor didn't crumble. She turned her grief into grit, opening a modest bakery with the life insurance payout. Thompson's Treats started as a hole-in-the-wall shop selling cinnamon rolls and coffee, but Eleanor's recipes passed down from her grandmother and infused with her own twists drew crowds. Word spread, lines formed, and within a decade, she had expanded to 5 locations across the Midwest. By her 60s, it was a chain of 20 gourmet cafes, specializing in artisanal pastries and organic blends. Her net worth climbed to $8 million, including prime real estate in Chicago, a beachfront vacation home in Florida, and a diversified investment portfolio. Eleanor had sacrificed everything for this empire: late nights kneading dough, missed school events, a social life reduced to business lunches, all for Lisa, her only child, who she hoped would inherit not just the wealth, but the work ethic. Lisa, however, had other ideas. At 42, she managed one of the cafes, but her heart wasn't in it. She preferred the perks, the free lattes, the employee discounts without the grind. Her husband, Greg, a 45-year-old former stockbroker who'd been fired for shady trades, was even worse. He lounged at home, dabbling in investments that always seemed to lose money, racking up $400,000 in debts from bad bets on everything from crypto to horse races. Eleanor had bailed them out more times than she could count, writing checks for emergencies that smelled like excuses. She'd noticed the tension lately: Lisa's curt emails, Greg's evasive eyes during family dinners, but she chalked it up to stress, never imagining the rot ran deeper. The accident happened on a rainy Tuesday evening. Eleanor was descending the grand staircase of her Victorian brownstone in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood when her foot slipped on a loose rug. She tumbled, cracking her hip against the banister and landing in a heap at the bottom. Pain exploded through her body like fireworks. Neighbors heard her cries and called 911. In the ER, Dr. Anil Patel, her physician for over 20 years, oversaw the scans: internal bleeding, fractured hip, possible organ contusions. He said gravely, his dark eyes filled with concern, "Eleanor, it's serious. You might have weeks, but we'll monitor closely." Lisa and Greg arrived soon after, faces etched with feigned worry. Eleanor, groggy from painkillers, reached for Lisa's hand. "It'll be okay, Mom," Lisa said, her voice cracking just a bit too perfectly. But as Dr. Patel stepped out to consult with nurses, Eleanor heard them through the thin curtain. Greg's voice, low and excited. "Did you hear that? Weeks. That means the will kicks in soon. No more begging for handouts." Lisa shushed him, but then giggled softly. "Think of it, the Chicago properties alone are worth $3 million. We can sell the Florida house, pay off your debts, and finally remodel our place. $200,000 on that kitchen we've dreamed about." Greg chuckled. "And the cafes, I'll flip them for quick cash. No more slaving over ovens like she did." Eleanor's heart hammered. She closed her eyes, pretending to sleep, as betrayal seeped into her like poison. Dr. Patel returned later that night, after Lisa and Greg had left for dinner. He closed the door softly and sat by her bed. "Eleanor, I overheard them from the nurses' station. I've had suspicions for months. Greg called me weeks ago, asking about your medications, allergies, what would happen if you had a sudden decline." It felt calculated. Eleanor stared at him, tears welling. "Anil, what are you saying?" He leaned in. "Your condition is bad, surgery needed for the hip, monitoring for bleeding, but it's not terminal. With proper care, you could have years. I exaggerated to test them, to see their true colors." The revelation hit her like a second fall. "Years, time to act." "Why?" she whispered. "Because I know you, Eleanor. You're a survivor. And if they're plotting, you deserve the truth before it's too late. Rage replaced her pain. Eleanor nodded. Help me expose them. I won't let them destroy what I built. Dr. Patel agreed, outlining a plan. He'd maintain the weeks to live facade publicly. Eleanor would go home for hospice care, where she could observe. Her loyal housekeeper, Maria, a 55-year-old immigrant who'd worked for her for 15 years, would be her ally. Install hidden cameras. Eleanor instructed Maria the next day, slipping her cash for discreet devices. Living room, study, kitchen, I need proof. Maria, who had always disliked Greg's laziness, nodded fiercely. For you, Signora, anything. Discharged after a week. Eleanor returned to her brownstone, a 3-story gem she'd bought and renovated with bakery profits. Feigning frailty, she settled into the master suite upstairs, connected to monitors that beeped softly. Lisa and Greg insisted on moving in temporarily to help, but the cameras, tiny and wireless, linked to Eleanor's tablet, captured the truth. That first night, in the living room, Lisa, lounging on the antique sofa Eleanor had inherited from her mother. The appraiser comes tomorrow, Greg said, popping open a bottle of Eleanor's vintage wine. This place alone $2.5 million in this market. We'll gut it, flip it. Lisa smirked. And Mom's jewelry. Those diamonds Harold gave her. Eleanor watched from her bed, fists clenched, but she needed more financial proof. Dr. Patel connected her with Victor Reyes, a sharp probate attorney specializing in family disputes. Victor visited discreetly at midnight, posing as a night nurse. I've audited your accounts remotely, he whispered, showing printouts. Greg's been embezzling from the cafe's $150,000 in fake vendor invoices over a year. Forged your signatures on checks. Eleanor's stomach churned. And worse, Victor added, he's been browsing dark web forums about merciful ends for the elderly, poisons that mimic natural decline. Proof. Screenshots from Greg's laptop, hacked ethically by Victor's investigator. The plan evolved. Eleanor would pretend to worsen, signing fake documents. Victor prepared powers of attorney, asset transfers that looked real but were legally void. Let them think they've won, Victor said. Their guard will drop. Over the next days, Eleanor played the part masterfully. Coughing weakly, she let Lisa feed her soup, all while the cameras rolled. Downstairs, more damning footage. Greg on the phone with a shady contact. Yet if she lingers, something subtle, like an overdose in her meds, make it look like heart failure from the fall. Lisa nodded approvingly. We can't wait forever. Her stocks are up $1 million in gains this quarter alone. Eleanor's condition deteriorated. Dr. Patel visited daily, announcing gravely in front of them, days now, at most. Lisa's eyes gleamed. That evening, they pushed the fake papers under her nose. Just sign, Mom, Greg urged, pen in her trembling hand. For insurance, treatments. Eleanor scrawled her name, watching their triumphant grins. Downstairs later, champagne clinks. We're rich, Lisa squealed. Pay off the $400,000 debts, buy that yacht, to freedom from the control freak. Greg added, if she doesn't go soon, a pillow over her face. Accidents happen. Victor moved fast. He organized a family farewell gathering, the next Eleanor's last wish, invited her estranged brother from Iowa. Notaries, attorney, witnesses, and undercover police tipped off about the murder plot. Lisa and Greg, oblivious, set up chairs in the living room like a premature wake. At noon, guests arrived. Eleanor, bedridden, was wheeled down by Maria. But as the room filled, she stood slowly but steadily, her voice strong. I'm not dying today. Gasps rippled. What is this? Greg demanded. Victor hit play on a projector. Videos flooded the screen. Their celebrations, embezzlement talks, murder plots. Lisa screamed, that's private. Police stepped forward. Not when it's evidence of conspiracy to murder. Chaos. Greg lunged for the remote, tackled by an officer. Lisa collapsed in tears. It was his idea. Revelations poured out. Greg's poisoning attempt, pre-fall traces in her tea, confirmed by talk screens. Arrests. Greg for attempted murder, embezzlement. Lisa as accomplice. Trials dragged over months. Eleanor testified, her voice steady despite the emotional toll. Greg got 20 years. Lisa cooperating, 12. Assets seized, debts exposed. Eleanor underwent hip surgery, rehabbing vigorously. She sold half the cafes, funneling proceeds into the Thompson Elder Protection Foundation, aiding abuse victims with legal aid and awareness. Her Florida home became a retreat for survivors. Years later, at 80, Eleanor stood at a foundation gala. Grandchildren, Lisa's kids, now in her custody by her side. She'd rebuilt, not just her body, but her purpose. Wealth, she realized, was fleeting, dignity eternal. The betrayal had scarred her, but from those ashes rose a legacy of light, proving that even in darkness, one could rise, unbreakable.